So, very honored and humbled by our guest speaker that we have today. His name is Rob Powers. He's the Vice President of 3D Development for NewTek. Prior to this, he was responsible for setting up the virtual art department for Avatar. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rob Powers.
Hey guys. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for coming. Wow. I just want to share a few things with you. Today we're going to cover a lot of my experience on the process and the evolution of the virtual art department, and kind of a little bit about my background, because I know you guys are getting started, and I'm happy to be here with you because I know you love the same type of things that I love. You know, we're kindred spirits. You guys have come here to this school to pursue this, and you're putting a lot of energy into learning everything you can about it, and it's important to me too. So let's just get started. Let me see if my little remote's working. Early influences. This is stuff that inspired me when I was getting started. And, you know, Pac-Man, back in the day, that was a video games, that's what we had. And I got hooked on this science fiction TV show when I was a kid that they imported from Japan. It was one of those ones where they destroy the cities with giant monsters. Love that stuff. And, you know, computers were, I mean, my generation was one of the first that had the synergy of film, influences from Star Wars and those type of big blockbuster films, video games with the earliest, you know, primitive video games that became, you know, a really huge pop culture influence. And then computers, the home computer, because the Commodore 64s and all those computers, you know, back in the day, they were amazing tools. And before that, this stuff that you're taking for granted, like sitting there with your laptops and your little, you know, the phones that we text with and our iPhones and our iPads, this stuff is really beyond where we were. You know, imagine having to actually use a real phone when you called someone and no texting. So that's what I grew up in. But it was the first generation that was seeing that technology blend in a very unique way. And this will be important later when we get into some of the stuff from Avatar. So when I started to go to school, there was really no CG animation programs. Film school was the closest thing to that. And you know, my icon was George Lucas. So George Lucas went to USC, and I wanted to go to USC. So I went to USC. It was a film school study program, and they did have a very small infant animation program that they were starting up, CG animation, but it was very small compared to the other. Then for graduate school, I went to the American Film Institute, which is the academy that does the Academy Awards and all that. They have an institute for graduate studies. I studied there at the AFI as well. And as I said, there were few, just my remote's jumping around, few CG courses. There we go. Yes. And initially when I got out of school, I started in television visual effects work. Right off the bat, there weren't that many people that understood animation software, you know, computer animation in particular, visual effects. And I don't know if you remember Ally McBeal. Anybody see Ally McBeal on maybe DVDs, reruns? So I did all visual effects for season 1, all the tongues, exploding heads, and the baby. The baby was a fun thing. So here's a little piece of the baby. The early in this scene, he was throwing a spear through her heart, and she had a hole in her chest. It was a fun show, and the thing that taught me was the turnaround times and the speed and the requirements, budgetary-wise and schedule-wise, for doing animation for television is a whole different ballgame than for feature film work. So you learn a lot because you have to do a lot. You're pushed to do a lot with a really tight schedule. So you know, when I started out, there was a big difference between working in television and working in film, for example, or gaming. At that time, gaming was seen as like the bottom of the totem pole. I mean, today it's not the case. But then there was a really big difference. But the great thing that you learn from getting a diverse education and understanding all of those disciplines is it makes you stronger in any one of those that you choose to work in, I really believe. I've had 2 decades in the industry. I've worked with Bill Gates. I did the first animation, 64-bit animation for him when he released Windows 64-bit. Obviously, James Cameron on Avatar, Steven Spielberg on Tintin, Peter Jackson as well on Tintin. That's Rick Baker, very famous creature creator, created a lot of the most famous masks and creatures and monsters that you've seen in the industry. This one was Rick Carter and Joe Letteri and Rob Stromberg, which won the Academy Awards. Joe for visual effects for Weta Digital, Rob Stromberg and Rick Carter for production design for Avatar. And the last one, obviously, is William Shatner and the Coder brothers who did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Really cool movie. So I love that. So how I got started in the CG industry is really an important part of it, but also you have to have a foundation in the basics. Because if you do see, I mean, in the early days, there were a lot of people who came from computer disciplines, let's say, who had no concept of filmmaking. And when you get into the process of, even with animation, when you're dealing with a sequence or a scene of a character, there is a story that you're telling. With every choice that you're making as an artist, you are determining how a character walks. You know, particularly they got the cool thing, or you know they're sad, or there's narrative information that you're conveying with every creative choice. If you understand Aristotle's Poetics is, you know, thousands of years ago, you know, kind of an explanation of what human dramatics consists of. And they had it. They had the elements of that, and it has not changed. So if you invest in learning about things like Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which he basically talks about how all religions, philosophies around the world have these reoccurring characters and these reoccurring influences that show up and resonate across all audiences. Just as one example, when you watch the scene from one of my favorite scenes of all time in a science fiction movie in Aliens, when Sigourney Weaver's in the forklifter, and you know the alien is attacking Newt, the little girl, and she comes after her, "Get away from her, you know." And the moment there resonates with everyone because you have a maternal figure that is protecting a child. And all of that is what these types of concepts teach you, is how you understand how humans and society communicates and how we tell stories. So if you understand those types of things, it's really, really important as an artist. Conflict is really important. If you look at the bottom picture here, if you go to a restaurant and everybody's sitting in there having wine and cheese and getting along and beautiful music, it's a fun evening, but nobody notices. If one person, if a woman gets up and throws her drink in her partner's face and screams, you're such a you know what, and everybody turns and watches, because conflict is the core of drama. And if you understand these concepts, you know, you will understand why movies work and why some do and some don't, and why you're bored and sometimes and you're not, other movies engage you. So investing in stuff like this, even if your discipline is not in screenwriting or filmmaking in particular. If you're in gaming, same thing. A good game tells a good story on multiple levels. A single image can tell a story. So if you understand how to motivate your audience and affect your audience, the viewers, you will be heads and tails above other people in your industry. The other thing is fine art. I know from what I've seen today at the school, all of the great work. It's an impressive facility, and all the great work that's coming out of the students, you guys. I see there's a real emphasis and a foundation on fine art. It's really important. I mean, pay attention in those classes, enjoy those classes, and learn everything that you can in those venues, because that will go with you for the rest of your life. Softwares will change, and trends will change, and all these other things, the tools may change. These things will never change. When you give yourself the proper foundation in fine art and dramatics and understanding these things, you will be a stronger artist, a stronger individual because of it, and you will never lose that, ever. So, very important. Photography is also a key thing. When you learn about photography, you get a great understanding of latitude, how film works, how it communicates to you, lighting, how it affects. I mean, you could change the lighting on a scene. Those of you that are working in animation and doing lighting in your scenes, you can light something one way, and it will have a totally different effect and emotional impact on the viewer. The animation could change not at all. And if you just change the lighting, it would elicit a totally different response from the audience. So lighting is so important. Composition, knowing how, composition is so important. I mean, when we were doing the Avatar jungles and those types of things, understanding composition of lights and darks and layers and atmospherics is so important to create all of the intricacies of an environment and really make it something that is pleasing to look at and looks like it's vital and alive. Real-world lens properties are also important. It's important to know when you make when you choose a focal length of a particular lens, if you want to go with a 75 millimeter or a 24 millimeter, what the effect of that choice as a CG artist even is going to make to your visual images. If you want to have an imposing character over the top of, it's like a Darth Vader type character. If you're looking and positioning your camera in a certain position and using a certain lens, it will help you and support you in that narrative communication. So that your visual choices, if you understand them, if you understand the concepts of photography and composition and lens choice, that will support everything that you're trying to do, everything you're trying to tell the audience with your imagery. Depth of field, shutter speed, obviously as well. Film production, all of the things that are important. Film production brings movement into the whole concepts of lighting and the editing part of it. How you combine images with things, how they're related to each other. Also shares a lot of similar things with photography, but is one step further than that. Shutter speed, for example, with motion becomes really important because if you're doing motion that you want to slow down every like a bullet time type effect, if you understand what shutter speed does for you, you will make better creative decisions as you're doing full CG animation projects. And this is something that's really important as well, affects your sculpture, affects everything you do, animation, if you understand how animals' muscles work, how human muscles work, the anatomy, the skeletal structures. You look at this and, that looks familiar because Avatar, basically, we researched for years the natural world and all of the crazy color patterns and amazing things in nature. And that's why there was an added level of realism in the film, is because it was based on a lot of things in the real world. Even though it took them and you looked at them from a different perspective, there was a scale change. The animal, the monster was giant or something was different. It still was based on the real world. And nature answers so many questions, teaches you so many things about pattern. If you look at the structures in some plants and the repetitive patterns, if you look at the termination of how color happens on skin, if you look at the way that color patterns happen and the way that there's transitions between that blue and that green there, where there's a little bit of a transition there. If you just do like a harsh change, you're not learning the lesson from nature, because nature tells you how things terminate and how colors blend and work together. And Florida's a beautiful place for that. There's a lot of crazy plants and animals and things down here. I used to live in Miami, and there's a lot of things to learn just around you. If you go and take like go to the zoo or go to some of the beautiful parks here, it's amazing. SeaWorld has a lot of that. In addition, choosing the proper tools, choosing the proper software and hardware tools that allow you to get your work done and express your creative ideas. You should choose things that allow you to do it quickly, as easy as possible, and with the highest render quality as possible. When opportunity knocks, if you have an opportunity, have you invested in yourself enough with all of these things that we just talked about so that you can respond to those opportunities when they come? Because you are going to all have opportunities in your life that are going to come. You're going to have things that if you've prepared yourself and if you've thought of these things, you will be able to take advantage of it. And so now is the time for you to be doing that. So thank you guys. I think we're going to take some questions now, right? Is that the process? Yes? So do we have a mic or someone with a mic for the guys? Does anybody have a question? You never know, if you ask a question, you might actually get some special things. Yes, thanks. Do we have a mic we could give her? Yeah? On the side? Oh, could you go to the mic on the side? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Amber Steele. I'm a CARS in lighting. And noticing your real-life integration so that James Cameron could work, how early did you guys incorporate lighting into that pre-viz workflow?
From the inception.
Yeah.
So the part of the exciting part of the virtual process is that lighting is a part of it from the beginning. You know, oftentimes with previs, there would be the absence of light. It would be this flat-looking, nothing but shapes and forms to solve problems with oftentimes gray shaded. The virtual production process involved lighting from its inception. It was a very key part of it. So we saw, you know, atmosphere and lighting as two of the most important things that had to be present in almost every set.
Did you guys treat that similarly to the way you treated the modeling, in which it was very closely handled by the filmmakers themselves? Or?
Yes. So when we would do a process for virtual walkthroughs, for example, lighting was present. So when James Cameron would walk through the set, or the production designer, Rick Carter or Rob Stromberg would walk through the set, the art directors, they would be able to place lights. And we had devices similar to, you know, that look similar to my little device that's driving the PowerPoint. They would be able to walk and have a light attached and place a light and push a button and it would plant a light there. So you could choose a spotlight or a, you know, so it's like virtual lighting was done on the set before the set was shot on. So from the first introduction of a set, it had lighting as part of it always.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was a great question. So let's give you do you want a copy of Avatar? Yeah, it's a Blu-ray. I autographed it for Virtual Art Department, and thank you for your question. Thank you. All right. Oh, sorry. Maybe I should go to that side. I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that really blew me away when I was watching the movie was, as the characters moved through the jungles and everything, the way that they affected the environments around them and how the plants brushed out of their way, and the way that wind currents affected everything, and it had a very, very natural feeling to it, even though it was all CGI. Now, was that done with a physics simulator or with hand animations? And, like, I don't know, was that you or Weta, or
Okay.
I'm just curious about it.
Very complex part of that process, and the answer is both. Because when we were shooting these scenes, there were some plants that were rigged with interactive rigs that the characters, when they were actually doing the motion capture, would affect. And as they pushed through, it would affect the plants in real time, so Jim could see that happening in the virtual set. That would be baked out, and that would be sent to Weta, and that would become the basis of what they would be doing the final animation on. At Weta, they had a whole different pipeline, a whole different post-production pipeline, extremely complex, you know, involving a lot of, proprietary scripting and, you know, technical tools that they put on top of Maya primarily as their basis. And they would do all of the above. They would do some hand animation when as necessary, and they would have a lot of simulation happening as well. So it was obviously the film was such a large project that it was, you know, by any means necessary, obviously. So great. Let's give you a T-shirt. How about that? There you go. Oh, are you a size extra large good? Yeah? Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for that question. That's good. All right, back over.
The piece of technology that really intrigued me was the one where the actors were stepping around and the environment was forming, that you were sculpting the environment.
Performance sculpted environments, yes.
Is that readily available, or is that like strictly proprietary?
At this point, it's proprietary. It was devised as a tool on that project, and that's all that exists at this moment. Yeah.
Are there any plans to like release it widely? Or?
Well, not at the moment officially, but there's potentially some, something happening with that in the future.
And I forgot my other question. I'm sorry.
You forgot your other question.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you think about it, then you let us know, and we'll come back. Okay. Over here.
All right, how you doing? Thanks for being here. by the
Great,
way.
my pleasure.
A lot of your lecture today had a lot to do with real time, building everything in real time, hundreds and thousands of assets, materials, and shaders. We're learning a lot here about taking high-res sculpts and projecting all of our detail on lower-res models. Now, while you're working in real time with hundreds of thousands of assets, how dense was the geometry for these assets? And did you find that if they were more dense or lesser dense, you had more render issues or more bogged down and lag time as far as real time goes?
Absolutely a challenge. And one of the, we would use baking technology to actually, this is just a little inside thing. I used LightWave a lot in the virtual art department as one of the tools that we used to create the assets because the renderer was so great. And I was able to bake all of that beautiful lighting and rendering and shading into the texture maps on low-res geometry to put into Motion Builder so that Motion Builder actually would look better than it did. So, no, really. So it was stealing kind of LightWave's renderer, advanced renderer, and putting it onto, which you can bake things from any great renderer. You could use RenderMan or Final Gather radiosity renders if you want. LightWave has that as well. But that was our technique, is that we baked all of that stuff into low-res geometry. And then that was a texture map that was combined with the relatively basic lighting model that Motion Builder has in real time. And when you combine those two, it looked really good for real time. So it kept the frame rates up. There were a couple of objects when we would need to do a close-up or something, we would create a high res. We would also be able to scale those and swap out as the camera would move away or close to anything that was flagged as a high res, and it would up its resolution as the camera moved. Yeah. So you want to come get a DVD? Yeah, Blu-ray. Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Thank you. It's a pleasure. All right. How about this side?
Hello. I've used Unreal Editor type of game engines, and you said it's like a game engine. And I don't know if there's programs available, minor programs that you can get online or buy anywhere to do something like that.
All right, what was it? What was the first part of the question?
I've used like game engines. You said it's kind of like a game engine. Like
Motion Builder, yeah.
I've used like Unreal Editor or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sort of like that, and can you get programs like that?
Yeah, Unreal is a great one, and it basically, there's some stronger game engines that are much better for real-time display than Motion Builder. But the thing is, Motion Builder included all the motion capture editing tools and all of the rigging stuff in addition, and motion capture editing is very important when you're dealing with something of that level. So there wasn't any application other than Motion Builder that had the real-time display engine and the motion capture management and animation tools. So that was where those tool things. Now the render engine is not as strong as most of or a lot of the other game render engines out there. Some of them are much more beautiful, but that's all you had. So if you use those, you would have to have a separate software setup and technology pipeline for that, and then inject that or transport or export that over to a game engine back and forth all the time. You can't do that. That would kill production, because until there's an application out there that has all of the niceties that motion capture editing and all of that Motion Builder has, its game engine is already integrated in the program. So that was why we chose to go with that as a tool. For pure visualization, if you're going to do a pipeline where you export for display and you're just going to do a walkthrough, then Unreal or any of those game engines would work great. But then when you finished, you'd have to re-export what you did back. See, if you're in a program that has it built in, any change you make in the walkthrough is already there. You just save your file and you're done. So the big catch 22 on that is the export, import back and forth from an external game engine. So you'd have to be really aware of that. Do you want to help me with, this is Vanita, everyone. She's a NewTek employee, one of our great employees, and she's going to help facilitate the giveaways to people. Okay, thank you for that question. Did that answer your question?
Yep. And can I get a movie at all? Or is it?
Well, I'll let Vanita determine.
Okay, thank you.
Vanita's got to determine that. Okay.
Hi, My name's Jason Black.
Hi,
I just
Jason.
wanted to thank you again for coming. And what we use here primarily is Maya. I'm a computer animation student. We get a little bit of Motion Builder and XSI. My question to you is, how important would you stress versatility in knowing multiple applications like LightWave or 3ds Max or any of the 3D packages? Like after I graduate from here, I'm going to be really strong in Maya, but kind of so-so. I've touched Motion Builder for like a month, but you talked a lot about it today, and I know that a lot of work in character animation itself is cleanup for mocap and stuff like that. So I guess, yeah, my question is, how important do you think that is?
What I would say to that is, where do you want to work? Because if you determine what you want your job to be, what you really want to go for in this life, and what you want to put yourself out there for, you should target based on that. For example, if you want to be an animator, Weta Digital at the height of Avatar had about 800 employees working on the film. So they had a pipeline with tons of people. If you want to be an animator working at somewhere like Weta Digital or ILM and a pipeline like that, Maya is a great solution. If you want to, if I had just, and I use Maya as well. I like Maya for a lot of things. I've used it for, a long time. But if I had just known Maya, when I had that opportunity presented to me for James Cameron, I would not have been able to do what I did. So you have to choose the things, and also that came out of the fact that I had my own company at that time, and I was doing commercials and music video work as well. I had a team of about 50 people that were working at the company on different projects. We were doing feature film overflow work, which means the studios would have a large production. They wouldn't be able to do it all. They would give a certain number of shots to people in the local companies in the local Los Angeles area or other places. And so we were doing that kind of work. And I had to, when you're dealing with budgets and schedules as a company owner, I had to choose software that I could afford, first of all. And the internal render engine in LightWave that's unlimited renderers with this beautiful renderer was too hard for me to pass up. Because when you introduce RenderMan or Mental Ray or V-Ray and all those things, they're fairly expensive, and they also add another level of complexity to your pipeline, which you have to have the infrastructure to support. And it's wonderful if you do have that infrastructure, like Weta Digital or ILM has a great TD base where they can write all the proprietary tools they need to solve any issue they have. But the majority of companies in the world are usually about 40 or 50 employees or less. They're not ILM and they're not Weta. So if you want to work at a larger facility like Sony ImageWorks or ILM or Weta, those places, you would have a different trajectory and you would focus on different things than if you want to work in a more diverse, smaller facility possibly, or if you want to work in different areas, you would have to choose the tools to make yourself as flexible as possible. So I think it depends on what your particular personal goals are, is the answer. And I would just say, the more you know, the better your chances, the better opportunity for you as an artist, I think. But it really depends on what you want to do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
My name is Will, and I had two questions. My first one is, I know when they were doing the filming and using like the mocap in order to receive the information for the planes and the helicopters scenes flying through the mountains, it's kind of like a two-part question. This one, how did you guys, as far as environment modelers and using your interactive, like innovative pieces, receive the information in order to like, for when he was like swinging it, and did you guys hand place those pieces in order to compose for the shot, or did you use one of your systems you invented? And then as well as, how did James Cameron choose his camera moves, and how did he match that? Because I know he was using like the mocap camera in order to pick up a lot of stuff for that. Did he have something similar for those shots as well, or did he stand next to the person animating the camera? How was that chosen?
That's a great question. And it's a fairly complex problem to solve, but really it was a simple solution. He had, James Cameron is a pilot himself. So he has a pilot's license. He has friends that are aviators and helicopters and fighter pilot friends. He brought some of those guys in, and some of us, including Richie Banham, the animation lead, and James Cameron, myself sometimes, and we had these small models of all of the ships and the creatures in the film. And the first pass, he would go through the space. And the other thing that I didn't mention about virtual is that scale is no longer an issue. So you can make yourself 800 feet tall and walk through a giant jungle and see it from as an 800-foot tall person. So in the past, when he worked on Titanic, for example, he had a lipstick cam, which he would have a scale model of the Titanic built, and he would go around that model with a little camera and plan his shots and do all of the stuff. Well, with virtual, you don't have to do that. So he would take the jungle, we would build the jungle environments. It was some of the earliest ones that we actually did on the film. And this stage space, for example, would be all of the floating mountains. The floating mountains would be here in front of me, and we would walk through with these little handheld models as a first pass, with the people driving them being pilots who have piloting experience and know how things bank and how things do. And they would be the puppeteers of the choreographed action first. Once that was determined and he got a cut that he liked, he would go and do camera on that and determine what the actual action would have to be. And then when he would do a close-up of the actual devices, he could have a section of the cockpits built that would actually be controlling the actors and the animators' motions, but it was based on what they were told was the motion that had already been determined from this motion capture. So, and the birds were a different thing, because there was a whole gimbal system that was designed for the actors. There's some of this on the DVD, the making of, yeah, and it had a whole complex system that would have them banking and doing things properly based on what the action should be. So it was a combination of something very simple, puppeteering with motion capture, and combining that with gimbal systems. The camera system was inherent because it was the virtual camera. So it was part of the process. But once you get a scene recorded in 3D space, and it is a living scene with all the acting and the motion, you can re-camera on it as many times as you want. I mean, imagine the benefit to production that is. When you, in the past, would have a take of something and you would film it, if you didn't get the proper camera angle to capture some action, then you had to go back and reshoot. And you may not get the proper performance from the actors exactly the way that you loved. Now, once you capture that performance and you've got it together in a scene, you can re-camera on it as many times as you want. It's an asset. So that's the way that we did that.
Awesome. And then my last question was, when you, as an artist yourself, when you go to look at, say, people who are applying for modeling positions from your organic or hard surface, or both, or individually, what do you feel is the most important thing to see from that artist in which you'd want to like hire them? Where you'd see, like, because I know you spoke about someone's individual artistic ability or something that made them creative. Do you like to see more traditional work? Do you like to see more innovative, some really high-res models or low-res models? What would you like to see the most?
It depends on what the job would be. If it was at a gaming company, obviously the low-res model and how that translates to high-res would be important to me. But in general, a strong fine art portfolio as well, in addition to the digital, so that I can see that the person has an understanding of texture and light and sculpture. If you're doing organics, you have to understand sculpture. You have to understand musculature and skeletal structure and all of those things. If you're doing hard surface, some product design, some understanding of mechanical design, how machinery works. All of those things are going to make you that much better than anyone else who is the competition. Absolutely. So, there's the execution with the 3D software, the CG software, but then there's all the stuff that you're bringing to the table that you use when you execute. And that's the part that you also have to have, because that makes you that much stronger than people who don't have that. And if you understand those things, you can take that anywhere. It's really a very important part of the process to understand. Ty Rubin on this was one of the designers that did some of the mechanical designs, and he has a complete understanding of mechanical design, the way ships work and aircraft and all of that. So very, very, very important. But depending on which area you want to focus on, because typically your mechanical designers, hard surface, are not the same people as your organic designers. So, normally you would choose one or the other.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hi.
My name's Amber, and I wanted to thank you for coming here.
It's
to
my
speak
pleasure.
with us. And I was wondering, because I thought the project you worked on with James Cameron, Aliens of the Deep, was it called?
Yes.
It looked absolutely beautiful. And I was wondering if that's available for the public to.
Yeah, it's on DVD.
It is on DVD.
It's on DVD. I don't think there's a stereoscopic version at the moment, but it's from Disney Walden Media on DVD.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Hi. I was really appreciate when you said the techniques will change, but the foundation of art is more important. But as the artist, we need the tool to create our idea. And I read about an article about LightWave on CG Talk not so long ago. So I want to ask if LightWave have any version for students to use like Autodesk?
Yes. There are student versions of LightWave with a huge discount price. Vanita, I think we can get the information on that so we can tell them. But there's also a download, a 30-day trial download on the website. If you download it and register for 30 days, you get a fully operational version. But there are discounts available for educational at a hugely discounted amount. You know, and I think the price, you know, pricing is not my area, but I think the full version currently is like $8.95, right, Vanita? And that includes all the unlimited render engine and all the stuff that, if you haven't seen the LightWave 10 stuff, it's actually pretty impressive with the support for the virtual camera systems and all of the things we've added. And then upgrade price, if you have an older version, it's like $4.95, I think. But the student price for the full version is a reduced amount, more like the $4.95 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what the exact amount, but we can get that information for you.
Thank you very much.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. Hi.
Hi. It seemed like a lot of the lighting in the movie was done scripturally. Did you do all the scripts for the lighting and stuff, or was there like another team that did a lot of the lighting? Because it seemed like you just, like James Cameron could go and put a light wherever he wanted it. Did
Right.
he control a lot of it? Or
Yes. The production designer and the art directors and myself would walk through the sets initially, and we would do a pass for environment, and we would try to guess where he wanted things to happen based on the script and our knowledge of the environments. And then we would present that to him in a virtual walkthrough, and he would make any changes in the moment. So the scripting part of it was really an automated thing. When you wanted to change it from day to night, it would swap out all the lighting rigs and all of those things. But the actual walkthrough part of the process was completely interactive. It would be more like, see that light right there? Can you grab that one and move it down? I mean, he would do stuff like that. So that light would actually be there virtually for him when he was walking through, and he could see it, and he would just tell them, you know, tell us what to do, and we would do it in real time. The part of the process of applying initial pass, when you're using a controller like this, we could actually go through and place the lights with this and plant them where we're, you know, like you can attach a light so far from your controller device. So initially as a lighter, you're walking around a room of a house, or the Navi schoolhouse, which wasn't in the film, but it was a great set. And you could have a light so far off of this when we go in, and you would just walk through the set and go, okay, we want to place a point light here, boom, and you push it and it plants it on the ceiling. And you're walking through lighting the scene as you're experiencing it with a virtual walkthrough. That was the process that we used.
So you didn't have like a post team that did it? Mostly it was just...
Yeah, there was a post team, but the key lights, that the main lighting that affected the scene was present. So the process at Weta Digital, for example, after it got down there, they would look at everything that they had gotten and maintain the important points that Jim Cameron wanted them to maintain without changing anything unless he requested it to be changed. And then at that point, it became a whole other it became the traditional post-production process, which we've been doing, you know, on all the films before Avatar, the way that they would devise it all in post-production and develop it all in post-production with heavy RenderMan pipeline, a lot of proprietary tools, a lot of scripting, all of that stuff was part of that. But for James Cameron, he was interactively doing it as he walked through in the moment. And he was also involved, obviously, later when the shots would come back from Weta in post, he would make creative choices and say, change this or change that. But Weta's process was a traditional post-production type process. The virtual process was what was new on this film and allowed Jim Cameron to actually make the film before they actually started working on it in post. So that was it. Thank you. $195? Okay, so the student pricing is $195 for LightWave 10. So for a full version. with all the stuff. I hope you check out LightWave 10. If you look on the webpage, we have a nice video showing you some of the new features. It's got full linear color workflow. You can plug in the little device that I have, which is a 3D connection controller, do walkthroughs and virtual fly-throughs with the new version. It's pretty cool. So, hi there.
With all the tools and scripts that you write when you're on a job, is that your property? I mean, can you reuse that?
No.
Or, so who owns that exactly?
The person who's paying you that you do the contracted work for.
Okay.
So if you're,
So you can't
unless you define otherwise in a contract, if you're hired on a production and you create something for the production that they ask you to create, then it's their work. If you create something on your own and you bring it to them and say, hey, I have this thing I've created, what do you want to use this? Then you can define that any way that you want to.
So some of the tools you wrote, like with the sphere and the geometry cutoff, I mean, you come up with that on your own, right?
Right.
And you brought it in.
Right.
So do you own that? I mean, okay.
Yeah. And I'm the head of development at NewTek now, so I'm excited about some of the things that we're implementing in the software, especially the virtual studio tools that we've been working on. They're running the virtual art department and creating that department from scratch. There were things and experiences that I had from having that experience with James Cameron and the production designers, Rick Carter. If you don't know Rick Carter, he did, Jurassic Park, all the Back to the Future, on and on and on. And working with those people and seeing what they needed gave me a unique perspective as to the virtual tools and what's needed. So it's an exciting time, I think, for that. Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Hi. I like concept art. That's what I want to do. I have seen impressive work in concept art, but you were showing us a scene where you use amazing digital painting, but you said that that wasn't enough because you just have that view, right? And you really want to see 360, just to, make sure what you have behind you and on the side. So will you say that in the future, the concept art is going to be all 3D? I mean, 3D is going to replace the 2D concept art? Or?
No. I never say that technology, it's like the same kind of question, similar question is asked by actors. Is the motion capture digital thing going to replace us? And what I would say is that Avatar was successful because it combined both. If Zoe Saldana had not been running all of the mechanisms that drove the character Neytiri, it would not have resonated with the audiences the way that it did. I mean, she understands acting. She spent her life studying acting. As a concept painter, illustrator would spend their life understanding the concepts of fine art and how to do a beautiful concept painting. If you eliminate that or replace it, it's just, it really is working together. So the concept art would give a foundation or a feeling or an overall environmental cue as to what the 360 would have to be. But what I'm saying is that there's a whole new part of it, which is this 360 virtual world part, which had to be created that never has been part of the process before. So we had to take one point of view and create the other, 180 view of it. But imagine our work would have been twice as hard if we had to start from scratch and we didn't have the painting to start with in the first place. So it was really a very useful part of the process. It's just that there's more now than there used to be only that. There used to only be concept art, and now the technology is there to serve the whole process. So as long as we keep the technology serving the artist and the directors and filmmakers and everyone across the board, that's what needs to happen. For a long time, the technology was driving too much. And we're seeing a swing in the other direction. I'm so happy about that because it really is the art and the individuals, and the virtual process brings the humanity back to filmmaking. And it's why Avatar has a kinetic feel, a immersive feel, is because every camera in that movie was held by James Cameron in his hand, and he made the decisions that this image at this moment in time is what I want the audience to see. It wasn't some other technology system or animators in a room that had to determine what, it wasn't any of that. It was the filmmaker in the moment. And I think that's important. So the same thing with concept art. The skill set and the contribution of that is amazing, and it will never go away, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. He's back. He remembered. He remembered everybody.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask was, when you do motion capture and stuff, when you have CG characters, especially ones that aren't human, going in between capturing motions from people, there's differences in scale, there's differences in size, there's lots of different things. And with a lot of video game characters, you have to compensate for that, so the character doesn't accidentally put their hand through their chest because they have big armor. And clearly the Na'vi aren't human, they have tails, they have long ears.
Right.
Were there any issues with their size difference and that of the motion captures, and how did they compensate for that? Huge
Problems. When you deal with not only the scale of an actor like Sigourney Weaver playing a 9-foot-tall Na'vi, there's one issue, but then there were some scenes where there would be motion capture actors that were playing humans in the same scene, and how do you do that? In addition, you would have a motion capture or an animated cycle of the mech walker with a human in that interacting. So there were huge, tremendous, complex problems with that, and it was a challenge ongoing. But it was one of the things that Simulcam had to solve. And I think that, oftentimes we experimented with a lot of different things, but remapping is getting to be pretty good. One thing you can't get away from is the penetration, and the actors have to know what is possible, and they get that through the interactivity of seeing themselves every day on the set, and they look over and they see themselves as the character. So they get familiar with their makeup. I mean, all it is really is an extension of makeup. So the actor is liberated. See, the thing that's funny about this is actors thought, there's such a long time, and I've been in these discussions with the Screen Actors Guild, actors going, oh my goodness, our days are numbered, we're gonna be replaced by, and all of that fear is the opposite. Because what it means is now, the actor who would have never been cast to play some certain character can play any character that they want to play that's a digital character, because they're not limited by their physicality. They're limited by their humanity and what they can put into something. So it's actually the same type of thing. It's makeup. If you look at it as an extension of makeup, an extension of prosthetics, that it used to be glue and goo and stuff they would put on. Now they don't have to go through that. So I think some actors that have gone through this process, and I know I heard Sigourney Weaver mention this, and Zoe talked about this as well, they feel liberated by the process, and they get familiar with it, and the scale is an issue. And there's no way to get around that issue. It's a pure mathematical a scale issue that you can't change the limitations. You can try to do things like we try to do, like put limitations as to how far the arms can move and all those things. But when you do that sometimes, it starts adding a level of complexity that is unnecessary. And sometimes it's better to old school, simplify, approach it the simple way, and just keep it simple so that people can understand it and it doesn't cause added complexities to the pipeline. And that's what it took, is it took familiarity with the limitations of what their rig was. So, yeah.
And another question I had was, when it comes with with modelers and texture artists and the director and people coming up with the ideas, people are putting their creativity and their ideas in. And with modelers and texture artists, they're also artists as well. When in the making of Avatar, did they have any room for creative freedom? Did they get to put their own spin on some things?
Yeah, James Cameron is very inviting of artists contributing. If you bring something to the table and you do some great thing, he's willing to look at that. Now, there's no guarantee he's going to like it. So your skin has to be thick enough. It's something that all of you should know, is that when you're an artist, if you wear your heart on your sleeve with everything that you're being paid to do, then you're going to have a very hard life. So just get over it now. Get over it, and just let people tell you it's too blue or it's too big or it's too, change the specs on the, from green to red, and don't take it personal. Because if you go to your home and you lock yourself in your bedroom and you do your own little thing, then be as personal and touchy about it as you want to be. But if you're getting somebody else to come and pay your weekly salary and ask you to help them make their movie, then you need to not be sensitive about it. You need to just get over that now, because I've worked with too many artists that one of their downfalls, the biggest downfall, is that they are too touchy and too sensitive about changes to something that they've invested themselves in. So you have to be good about investing yourself and giving it your all and not being touchy about if they make a change, because it really is the director's vision that you're trying to help him make. So if you're making your movie, and he would say this sometimes, I can't use the exact language that would be used, but he would say, okay, the last time I checked, this movie said a James Cameron movie. When you want to make your blank movie, then you make it whatever you want to, what color you want it to be. I want it to be green, So you got to be flexible enough to allow that to happen and not take it personal. And I worked really well with him because I didn't take anything personal at all. I felt my role was to help him visualize his movie, not my movie. So the sooner that you can learn that little tidbit, the better. Nobody likes to work with sensitive people that you can't tell them anything and they get all bent out of shape, and it's not a good situation. So.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Powers. I'm David Vick, and I'm wondering, as an artist, you've met many limitations by the tools you were given, and obviously that's why you wrote many tools for the software you were making. How did that lead you to where you are now? I don't know how much of an artist you are now, as the vice president of LightWave. What made you take that change from the art to the technical?
Well, I'm a vice president of NewTek, but I'm the head of LightWave, so I use it every day. And I think one of the reasons why it's fun for me is because if it was purely a technical job and it took me away from that artistic expression part of it, it would not be really fun for me. But all of the tools that I've tried to add to LightWave 10, the version that we just released in December, are all about this real-time feedback. One of the most exciting things is that VPR that's in the viewport, that you can see the full-time render of the final rendered image, with all the ray tracing and the radiosity, global illumination. As an artist, it's fun to play with that. There's a technology that's been a part of LightWave for a long time called hypervoxels, and it's a volumetric. I did a lot of nebulas. If you saw the movie Race to Witch Mountain, it was out by Disney with a rock. I worked on some of the nebulas in that and a lot of the space stuff, and I was using the hypervoxels. I didn't work for NewTek at the time, but I was using the hypervoxels to do some of the Hubble space look-alike nebulas, and it took forever to render them. But now with the VPR that we've implemented in 10, you can turn that stuff on in real time and see those nebulas in real time, move around them, true volumetrics and stuff. That kind of thing, as an artist, for me, gets me very excited. When the developers came to me and said, when you ask us to do this thing, let me show you what we've come up with, and I saw that for the first time, it was really, as an artist, for me, very exciting. And I just can't help but think, gosh, I wish I had that last year when I was working on that movie, because it means as an artist, you have more choices that you can make. You can experiment more because your time, is not wasted with waiting for a render to happen and all this kind of stuff. We want to work in the real world, change the lighting like the real world does, texture things and paint on it and touch it and sculpt it like the real world, and then we want to move on. We want to have that experience. So the more interactive, the more exciting. And I think for me, the way it's prepared me for this moment is the experience on these films was all about bringing interactivity to a heavy animation visual effects production and empowering James Cameron to immerse himself in that and creating tools that helped him do that. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm trying to do with the software. That's all of the things I'm adding to the LightWave software is to make that for everyone, so that you can pick up, a little controller from 3D Connection. You can do a virtual walkthrough on your laptop. We just just showed the faculty some of this stuff before this, and I was walking through a virtual set with that on this laptop, moving through, and it's really fun. I mean, for me to do a demo to them is fun for me too, because it's like I'm getting to move through this, and you can see the stuff resolve. And when you get into playing with scenes that you've done. I dug up some of my scenes from the past 10 years and was playing with even some of the stuff I dug up from the Aliens of the Deep stuff. I included some of them on the LightWave 10 content. I put them in there just for fun, and I was moving through them. And back then, I had to render the stuff out and wait for it. This is just in 2003, 2004, so it's not that long ago. But I would have to send it off and wait, for the thing to render and then compile it as a quick time and watch it. Now, it's like in the interface. As I'm doing a soft body dynamic simulation of a jellyfish, it looks like the jellyfish that's bioluminescent. So it's really a fun part of it. So the technology can empower the art. And I think as we move forward, where we're at right now is toward more interactivity, more for the artist, and that kind of feedback is going to be the standard. I think. So it's fun. It's really an enjoyable part for me. Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Hi there.
Hello. I actually think that the question I had was very similar to his.
Okay.
With the interactivity for these, or for LightWave that you're working on, how far away do you think we are where the artist can actually hand manipulate things, can actually put on glasses or something like that to walk around their model, to walk around an environment, or anything to that extent?
Well, I mean, we can do that now with some of the new technology we've implemented in LightWave 10, for example. The VCam is an InterSense system that you can do that now. So it just depends on what software and hardware you have set up. It will continue to get better, because 3D is kind of the new version of 3D that we're all kind of all focusing on now is a new advancement that's appeared in the last several years, and the standards for home distribution and home display have not been worked out yet. So whenever some new technology appears like that, there's a little bit of time that it takes for manufacturers to get on the same page and for the public to accept it. And it remains to be seen exactly what workflow is going to work the best for that if it's going to pan out and be a real force in immersion. I think it's really useful. I mean, one of the things we implemented, I redid the whole stereoscopic rig in LightWave 10 as well, and you can take, we have the anaglyph built in, so you can get the little red-blue glasses and put them on, and right in the interface, be controlling the 3D and see that stuff in real time now. So let's just say, for example, if you had a little 3D connection, 3D mouse device, it's like $80. You plug it into a USB port on the laptop, you're in a scene that you've created. You can right now do a virtual walkthrough with stereoscopic glasses on and see it in 3D on a laptop. So there's levels of it. It's just going to continue to evolve and get better. And the plans that I have currently for our virtual studio system, that the LightWave 10 has the first iteration of that. A lot of the things that I developed and innovated on Avatar, or that we came up with, are going to influence the future of that technology. And I don't mean just for me, I mean across the industry. Because, it really was the first cornerstone of that type of technology, driven by one of the greatest directors of our generation. And I think it's exciting to think about the way that it will influence prop placement. When you have an empty set and you're going to be placing props, why not use a virtual controller? You can do several versions. You don't have to just do, in the past, the prop design on a set would happen one time, and then if the director didn't like it, everybody could be all upset and bent out of shape and slow down production. Now you could actually present the director with 20 different versions of something that's been propped out, and you could load those up and have him walk through and see which one he likes better. And in real time, change it and manipulate it. You don't like the speaker here? Swap it out with a chair from the library instantly. You don't like the tree? Swap it out for a different tree. We had scripts that could globally replace a certain type of plant because James Cameron wouldn't like that plant for that environment with another plant instantly. So those are the things that virtual brings to the process, is you can actually manipulate it way more than the real world. Scale is not an issue. All of the limitations of a real camera rig are not an issue. And lighting is not an issue. It brings a lot to the table. Yeah, thank you. Hi there.
My name is Justin Jackson, and I'm a game art student, but in my own personal time, I've been developing a story or a script. It's written in movie formation. I was wondering if you have any suggestions on how I could take it to the next level or someday be on James Cameron's level, you know.
Is it a feature film?
It's written in film formation, yes, sir.
But is it the feature length? Is it a feature film?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. I would say you have a unique opportunity because being here at this time in your career and with the industry being the way that it is with so much opportunity for you to have access to tools and software and create visuals like never before. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that someone that had an idea would have to rely on a studio to go to them to help them visualize something. With your strength in the gaming that you're focusing on, you could easily write your script and create a trailer that tells everyone this is the concept for my movie, and you could produce it yourself, just like that short film I showed, The Passenger. You could create a trailer like that for your film yourself, and you have the technology to do that. And that would sell more people on your idea, if it's a good idea, than anything you could do. So I would encourage you to explore that, especially with your your gaming focus and your experience with the animation technology, software, and all of that. I would explore that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
sure,
it.
sure. Okay, we have one more question, and then we're going to wrap up. Hi there.
Hi, my name is Crystal. I'm an animator here, and I was wondering, I know that you guys used a lot of mocap, but I was wondering where traditional animators fit in. Is it just mocap cleanup? I mean, I know you have a bunch of different animal characters that obviously I didn't see were mocapped, like the cats and the giant.
They weren't.
Yeah, those were hand done then.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are using a hybrid of.
Absolutely. So, but see, the thing is, motion capture is important for actors because you want to capture all the nuances of those actors, and it's really called performance capture. So just start saying performance capture because motion capture was what it was. Now it's about performance capture, which involves not just the body motions, but the facial and all of that. So it's the performance. That is relevant when you're dealing with an actor. There may be times when you may want to do that with an animal, like we did do the horse captures and they helped feed some of the information. But in general, that's important when the actor is driving the character, and that's important. When it's important for an actor to drive it, that's important. Everything else is character animation. And even the things that sold you on Zoe's performance that weren't part of her performance, like the Navi had these big ears, and they did a lot of stuff, and they had a tail. And they did a lot of stuff. Yeah, and there were animators at Weta that just focused on one character's performance of their ears and tail and had to master that. And you wouldn't believe how much it augments the performance to have those things right, nail and augment Zoe or Sam Worthington's performances. So very crucial, very important to be a keyframe animator and to know that. I mean, when Disney was the foundation and they figured it all out, if you read all of the books that are available now, they invented the art form. And to not know that and to call yourself an animator is not doing a service to yourself at all. You have to know those things, and they are crucial. If you know that, everything you do will be better. And it ain't going anywhere. It is not going anywhere, I promise you. It's not going to go anywhere. So the same way that the concept art isn't going anywhere, it just means that now you have more options. You have more options, and you can do it better than you could do it before because you have so many different capabilities. You can choose what's the best thing for us to do on this project. Do we have a great actor that can perform as a really great performer? Then motion capture is going to be important on this project. If we don't, if it's Pixar, you're going to be doing some hand key animation because that's what they do. They understand. They are actors. They understand acting and performance. So I would recommend anybody that wants to be a character animator, please take some acting classes too. You got to understand it. It's really important. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Good luck to everybody.